What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Wednesday, August 5th, 2026, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now it is 15:32 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from the Middle East. But before I get into that, I wanted to share some very serious news coming out of the Pentagon. So NBC News is reporting that the Pentagon is drafting a new U.S. nuclear strategy that emphasizes the possible use of short-range tactical nukes in case of a regional war with China or Russia. Accordingly, the strategy informs nuclear options for the president in cases of crises. Wow. Okay, so the U.S. looking to free up their use of short-range tactical nukes in the event of a war with China and Russia in Taiwan or in Eastern Europe or potentially Iran. So this is huge breaking news. And right now, I wanted to show you guys what we have up in the air over the Middle East. So we still have a large movement of U.S. military cargo planes from the U.S. to Europe and from Europe to the Middle East. So this is a clear sign that the Trump administration is preparing for the possibility of an escalation with Iran. You can see multiple C-17 Globemasters on their way down to the Middle East from Ramstein right now. We also have an E-3 Sentry AWACS plane leaving Israel for some reason, and we also have multiple aerial refuelers taking off from Israel as well. And interestingly, this morning and this afternoon, we've had multiple early warning radars audible on European radio stations. So somebody has early warning radars turned on in Europe and the Middle East, and they only do that when something is happening or about to happen. So I will be monitoring the situation very closely, and I will go live later on tonight, probably between 8 and 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And then this was last night, more U.S. military cargo planes going down to the Middle East. And we're hearing reports that Trump is nearing an agreement with Iran and Oman to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, so another ceasefire deal. I don't know what number we're on. This could be like ceasefire number 74. We'll have to wait and see if this actually holds. I personally don't think it will. I think Trump is just trying to buy time to prepare his final plan against Iran, which involves taking out all the nuclear facilities and changing the regime. I think he needs more time to replenish U.S. forces and to come up with solid plans for that. And a senior Iranian official told Al Jazeera that there is only one or two issues remaining that are still disputed in order to reach an agreement, and they can be resolved. Any closure or reopening of the Strait of Hormuz will depend on the steps taken by Washington, and sources close to the negotiations speaking to Iranian state-owned Fars News say that the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz requires Washington to fulfill prior commitments, specifically reversing the naval blockade, export restrictions, and frozen funds linked to the Islamabad agreement. That was the initial peace agreement, the memorandum of understanding incorporating U.S. obligations. Okay, so if you remember, the U.S. obligations were that no blockade, lifting of sanctions, and also the key sticking point was Lebanon. Okay, Israel was striking southern Lebanon and the suburbs of Beirut, and Iran didn't like that, and Iran basically said, if you don't force Israel to stop doing that, then we're going to go back to war. So the question is, will this continue to be, part of the next peace deal, if it even gets to that point? We'll have to wait and see. And this update was sponsored by NYPrepper Supply. Guys, NYPrepper Supply is doing a major sale on their 4-week emergency food supplies. And to get the deal, you got to use the link preparewithnyprepper.com. The link is in the description down below. But you're going to get 2 4-week emergency food supplies for $416. That's 2 months of emergency food for $400. Where are you going to find a deal like that? This is freeze-dried food, has a 25-year shelf life, packed in 4 rugged, watertight buckets that don't take up a lot of space. So even if you live in a tiny apartment, you can still prep and have 2 months of food for just $400. Use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get the deal, and the link is in the description below this video. And Iranian and Omani negotiators have finalized the draft agreement to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, awaiting final sign-off from Iran's supreme leader, according to regional officials. Built on the framework of the Memorandum of Understanding, which was the first peace deal, the Temporary Transit Pact is designed to pave the way for renewed U.S.-Iran negotiations regarding Tehran's nuclear program. And from what I'm hearing is that the agreement would basically mean that ships going into the Strait of Hormuz would go through the Omani route, and then ships leaving the Persian Gulf through the Strait of Hormuz would follow along Iran's coastline. That's what the deal is basically going to be. So this is totally insane. And we're hearing that Trump has been keeping Israel in the dark about these negotiations. Israel acknowledged it is not being directly updated by the U.S. regarding negotiations with Iran over the Strait of Hormuz, receiving most of its information through indirect channels while maintaining a high level of alert. And Netanyahu said today that Trump is one of our best friends, but I want to clarify the existence of Israel is not up for negotiation. Whether there is an agreement or not, we will do everything necessary to ensure our future. Wow. So strong words from Netanyahu. And Trump decided to back off from striking Iran on Friday after talking with Middle Eastern allies, who told him they were scared of an Iranian retaliation against their energy infrastructure, which led him to tell Hegseth to stand down for now. Gulf countries issued concerns about a shortage of air defense systems impacting their ability to defend against Iranian retaliations, particularly if they are targeted in response to any American escalation. Wow. And speaking of air defense shortages, the U.S. Army has burned through nearly 80% of its inventory of THAAD anti-ballistic missile interceptors compared to pre-war numbers, and roughly half of its Patriot interceptors since the start of the Iran war in late February, according to 2 sources familiar with the latest inventory report by the Pentagon. So that is major breaking news, guys. 80% of our THAAD interceptors gone. Okay, that's bad. Now, if you don't know what the THAAD missiles do, they're basically a medium-range air defense system. So Patriot missiles are for like short-range missiles, short-range ballistic missiles, and cruise missiles. You know, maybe up to like 200-300 mile range, and then the medium range would go from like 300 miles to, I don't know, 2,000 miles, and the THAAD system can intercept those medium-range missiles, which is mostly what Iran fires, because Iran is a huge country. So if they want to reach Saudi Arabia or Bahrain or Qatar or Kuwait, none of their missiles are firing less than 800 miles. They're massive distances between these countries there. Okay, so we're mostly using our THAAD missiles, which are very expensive and very crucial, especially if there's a war in Asia between North and South Korea, or Taiwan, or in Eastern Europe between Russia and Poland. So this is very, very concerning. And there were also 3 explosions last night in Dubai, and the cause of those explosions is unknown. And the British Maritime Trade Organization received a report of an incident 95 nautical miles southeast of Aden, Yemen. The master of an oil tanker reported hearing a loud explosion in close proximity to his vessel, and this is right in the Red Sea. So the Houthis are attacking another oil tanker right now as we speak. And I wanted to share some interesting information about Area 51. So there's 2 wildfires that are currently raging right outside of Area 51. And you can see here a fire map from NASA. And just to the northeast of Area 51, which is this dry lake bed right here, this round lake bed in the bottom center of the picture, just to the northeast, you can see there's a massive fire on Bald Mountain, and Bald Mountain is 10,000 feet high, and Area 51 has a bunch of surveillance equipment, radars, and all kinds of sensitive instruments on the top of Bald Mountain. They actually use Bald Mountain to spy on Area 51 tourists and researchers, because from that mountain they can see all the way to the extraterrestrial highway and all the way down to Groom Lake Road, where the main gate and the back gate to Area 51 are located. So this is very, very interesting. And then there's another massive fire to the west of Area 51. And if you guys haven't seen my Area 51 footage, I recommend you check it out. I went to Area 51 in late January of this year on the sidelines of SHOT Show, and me and Chuke from Chuke's Outdoor Adventures hiked up Tikaboo Peak. We were probably the last people to be able to film the base from Tikaboo Peak, because the government has since closed Tikaboo Peak and the entire area. Okay, but when we climbed up Tikaboo Peak, it was at night. And we were able to film 2 white orbs flying over the base, and I actually have video footage of that. They were airborne for probably a good 10 minutes or so, and then they landed at the base, and you can check it out in my shorts. I have a short, and then I also have a separate playlist for all my Area 51 expeditions there, okay? But yeah, check out my Area 51 footage, but this is very, very unusual, and I will be monitoring this very closely. And Ukrainian drones conducted another deep strike on a Russian oil refinery located in Syzran, which is about 1,000 miles deep into Russia. Also, Ukraine attacked another Russian wild berries facility, which you can see here. And wild berries is like a Russian Amazon. This is totally insane. They've hit probably half a dozen or more of these logistics facilities. And this company is very big in Russia, apparently. So they're doing some economic damage now, some serious economic damage, not just in the energy sector, but just in the consumer products sector now in the Russian economy. And a North Korean missile unit has begun deploying to Western Russia and could be equipped with 120 ballistic missiles and 6 launchers for strikes against Ukraine, an official at Ukraine's military intelligence agency said. And Russia said that they launched strikes against Odessa last night and damaged 3 vessels. And Russia's defense ministry said they launched strikes against logistics infrastructure in the capital of Ukraine and nearby areas last night. So Russia did launch a massive strike on the capital of Ukraine last night. And Ukraine, as you guys probably know, has run out of air defenses. So now Russia's really going to start ratcheting up the strikes against Ukraine, but very concerning is what happened last week. The Russian missile that flew 60 miles into Poland, and the Polish government, run by a bunch of liberals at this time, failed to shoot the missile down, and it landed in a farm, crop field just a mile from a village. But clearly Russia was testing Poland to see what their air defenses are like, and the next time Russia launches a missile into Poland, I believe it's going to be to strike some type of joint Ukrainian-Polish facility that's used to manufacture drones or tanks or various weapons, artillery shells for Ukraine. I think they're going to hit some type of manufacturing facility that's either joint between Ukraine and Poland or Ukraine and NATO, and that's going to be the first major test that Russia's going to see how NATO responds. And if NATO doesn't do anything, which they won't, then Russia's going to actually invade Poland and launch a full-scale attack on Poland's eastern and northern borders, and then also invade the Baltics, okay, which could happen as soon as this fall. A lot of experts are saying September, October for an invasion of the Baltics and Poland. And Taiwan started today the largest ever iteration of its 10-day annual Hang Kwang live fire military exercise. More than 20,000 troops will be mobilized for drills, which for the first time restricted mobile internet access to test the resilience of civilian communication during air raids. The drills will focus on decentralized command, giving officers the tools necessary to take the initiative and act independently. So that's a major red flag there, okay, in Taiwan. Massive exercises underway. And apparently another assassination attempt against Trump was thwarted. A man who has been identified as Janine John Teal, 38 years old, was arrested at Trump National Golf Course in Rancho Palos Verdes ahead of President Trump's visit to California today, after he was caught monitoring security preparations. Police said the man was found with an illegally modified AR-15 body armor, high-capacity magazines, ammunition, and notebooks that had anti-Trump statements inside of them. Wow. And the FAA is investigating an incident in which Reagan National Airport didn't shut down commercial airspace temporarily for Marine One to leave the White House on Tuesday. So they're supposed to shut down air traffic when Trump flies in and out of the White House on Marine One, which is that big helicopter. Very, very strange. And a man has been arrested for arson in connection with one of the wildfires near Spokane, Washington, which has forced nearly 70,000 people to evacuate and destroyed 700 buildings. The fires remain uncontained. And I personally believe a lot of these fires in Canada and the U.S. are purposely started by the elites. They want everybody to think that the world is on fire, you know, it's global warming, it's all because of the climate change, that we have all these wildfires now. I really believe that. And Brazil has formally downgraded its diplomatic relations with Argentina, stating that it will not return its ambassador to Buenos Aires. Interesting. So Brazil, if you guys are not aware, is becoming a communist country under the current leader. And Argentina has gone away from communism and socialism. And so Brazil is basically mad about that. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I will be back later on tonight with a live update. And until then, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere. And this update was sponsored by EMP Shield. Guys, EMP Shield has created a special discount just for you, the listeners of the NYPrepper channel. If you go to empshield.com and use the promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And why do you need an EMP shield? Well, this is a special device to protect your vehicle, your RV, your solar generators, your radios from an electromagnetic pulse, which could be caused by a solar flare or potentially a rogue country like North Korea detonating an electromagnetic pulse weapon over the United States that's mounted onto a satellite. So protect your vehicles, protect your RV, protect your radios, protect your generators with an EMP shield. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off. Installation is super simple. This is a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made, and the EMP shields have been tested by the military, okay? And free shipping is included to the entire continental United States. And the link and the promo code are in the description below this video.